Before we start watching this video and responding to it, I want you to remember that this does not exist in a bubble. There is a ton and a half of context around it. Everything from a couple of months ago, the lockdown protests who were the worst people imaginable. We needed to get the state on them to shut them down. They're going to kill grandma by going out. They're horrible people. They want to reopen the government. That's all bad. Then suddenly, just within a couple of days, if not a week or two, that narrative completely flipped around when the people going out and rioting, protesting, however you want to call it, rioting, were not right-wingers trying to get their jobs back or reopen the government. They were avid left-wingers going out and burning, looting, and murdering, BLM, for the wrongful death of a guy who was in custody of the police. And then another one happened and a Wendy's was burned down. It was all a big mess, but all the same people who said those protesters who were trying to reopen the government to stop an economic collapse were the worst people ever were now suddenly telling you that these much, much larger protests, riots, were A-okay because what they're fighting for is justice. Yeah, bit of hypocrisy there. So let's keep that in mind as we watch today's video, and we're told that the people who try to reopen the government are still to blame for the upcoming COVID spike. Before we get into the video, I would like everybody to like, share, and subscribe. Let's work together to beat the algorithm because after I was completely demonetized, they are trying to choke me out the best they can. And now it's not just the main channel that was demonetized. The side channel was demonetized as well. The Sinatra Says Second, completely demonetized for reused content. And what's even better is they won't give me any of my money that I earned, as you can see in the email on screen. And if you so choose, there are several ways you can support me, the channel, and the content on it, and the side channel as well. There's a Patreon with a myriad of rewards, including a Minecraft server, maybe a 7-day server coming soon, movie night, and so much more. It's pretty cool. I would patron me. You can also donate directly to PayPal. I'm also on BitChute. If anything gets taken down off here, it's all archived there. And also I have a P.O. box where I will be doing unboxing videos, or if you just want to send anything, you could check that out, all in the description. Thank you.
Dr. Kavita Patel is a public health expert who helped in the response to the H1N1 flu outbreak when she worked in the Obama administration. She's an NBC News medical contributor. Dr. Patel, good morning. It's good to see you. Anyone who thought this country had turned the corner on coronavirus need only look at those national spikes this week, setting 3 new records for national cases.
The issue is, yes, the COVID numbers are spiking. They are going way up, but most likely has nothing to do with the country reopening. It has nothing to do with small businesses reopening. It has to do with the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people who went out and protested the death of a guy. I have to be careful what I say there. I'm sure you understand. But it has to do with none of that, right? I don't understand. What's the logic here? Please explain.
And all the spikes in those countries like Florida, those states, that Kerry just reported on. As you look at these cases, what is behind the spike here?
Are you guys ready to be blamed for this spike in new cases, quote unquote? Are you ready to have the entirety of the everybody who's getting sick from COVID thrown right at your feet? Like one of those woke movies that do bad and we don't go see it because they say this isn't for men. And then we're blamed because it wasn't successful. That's literally what's about to happen.
Yeah, there's a pretty interesting trend, Willie. So first of all, if you go back to 3 months ago, you could almost just literally take the map of where you see the spikes today and reverse with looking at the states where we had the spikes, as you recall, of course, kind of the Northeast corridor.
So you have the entire left coast spiking and most of the South spiking. And Ohio, for some reason, even though we're not really opened up, but who needs facts, right? I wonder if that could have anything to do with more testing. Maybe. I hope this doctor can explain it.
Parts of the Pacific Northwest and some of California, and it really is kind of an even flip. In fact, many of us months ago were wondering, well, where are we going to see, when and where are we going to see the trends in the South?
California and Washington stayed on the list. The only ones that weren't on there were New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. Like, What are you talking about, lady?
Particularly Florida, and that's exactly what we're seeing. So there's a couple of, we think there's several things happening. Number one, the reopening certainly contributed to this. We are, in fact, also doing a lot more testing, but that doesn't mean we're picking up more cases.
Ah, yes, of course. The number one contributor to all of this is the reopening of the country. Not the millions of people out marching, not these people going out and fucking up cities, none of that. No, never that. It's the reopening. It's the right-wingers who are the problem because somehow not destroying the country is a political issue. And let me hear that last part just one more time.
We are, in fact, also doing a lot more testing, but that doesn't mean we're picking up more cases.
So you're doing more testing, but not picking up more cases? Then where is this spike of cases coming from? If you're doing more testing, you're getting more cases. That makes no fucking sense. This happens every time. You test 1 million more people, you get 40,000 new cases, and you're like, there's 40,000 new cases today. Yeah, because you tested a fuck ton of people and got a fuck ton of cases. This is insane. Unless I am missing something very blatantly obvious to anybody who isn't me, that makes no fucking sense.
It just means that in the beginning, we were really only testing some of the more vulnerable people. Remember, people who got to the hospital, people at nursing homes, and now we're getting a pretty even sense that there is a growth, especially in younger people.
So you're not testing the vulnerable people anymore, but forget Chris Cuomo just putting COVID patients in nursing homes. I guess that's what he did. But you're not testing just the vulnerable people, you're testing everybody. So you're seeing spikes. But it's not because you're doing more testing? What?
But again, I'll reiterate, it's not just because we're testing that we're picking up more cases. We are seeing true, what we call community spread. And how do we know that? We know that because for every person who gets infected, they are giving that infection to at least 1 to 2 other people.
This high-profile MSNBC doctor is now explaining to us how viruses are spread. Yeah, we know that. I mean, we're kind of in the middle of a pandemic. So why does it need to be explained to us? Okay, just okay.
And we know that that shows a strong sign of person-to-person spread, particularly in that 18 to 45-year-old age group.
Ah, yes, the same age group that's out protesting and rioting, you know, those people. And isn't it funny, just a little bit funny, that the biggest age demographic, the most active 20-year age demographic, are the ones being tested more and you're finding more cases? They're also the ones who are most likely to get sick and beat it without any long-term health issues. But inconvenient facts.
And as you say, it really is following a pattern that public health experts like yourself have been telling us about since February and March, that it would die down a bit in these hot spots like New York City and then come back in other places across the country.
Well, you can't really blame these people for not believing the experts. I mean, they've been wrong on everything since late 2015. So why would they be right about this thing, especially when there's so much political context and political meaning behind all of it? So yeah, being skeptical of the experts is not a bad call.
Is that just an effect of reopening? What else is behind this?
You know, reopening certainly contributed to it. We also have now looked at trends in states that have had mandates around mask wearing, just to be clear.
So they're literally going to blame everything, every fucking thing, except for the protests, the riots, all that shit. None of that shit contributed to anything. It's the states that are reopening, the states that don't have a mask mandate, and every other issue except the one that is most likely the main cause of it. And you wonder why people don't trust the news and don't trust the experts. Like, the answer is right in front of you, and you refuse to say what it is.
This is now something that we have, remember, several months ago, we weren't even sure if we should have people wearing, non-medical masks on their face. But now we have compelling data that just the simple act of mandating facial protection could decrease cases in half.
The WHO and the CDC have flip-flopped on that since COVID started to get bad. Now it's, oh, for sure, you 100% need to wear masks. until the next bit of data comes out and it turns out you don't have to. Then the next bit says you do. So it's either or. We don't know. We have no idea. But I know forcing people to wear masks is a bad thing. Look, if you want to wear a mask, I don't give a shit. I don't like wearing them because I like to breathe. But if you want to wear one, go for it. You're not a hero. You're not saving the world. You're wearing a mask. Big deal. I gotta tell you though, my favorite analogy when it comes to the cloth masks, the very useless ones, is I can fart through my jeans and underwear and still smell it. And that all that is particles in the air, just like COVID is, so it doesn't do much. And yeah, pretty much.
And you did see early on when the evidence kind of emerged that states were pretty clear, particularly New York, et cetera, about mandating mask wearing. I also think that another contributing factor to this is somehow that we do think that the virus is just that infective. We know that.
I know some people might say this is semantics, but did that doctor really just say infective instead of contagious? Oh, okay. I mean, fine. It's a word. I had to Google it to make sure. It's a word, but holy fuck. Come on. So again, blame everything except the one thing that is most likely the biggest cause to this. Yeah. Can't hurt the narrative, can you?
Congregate settings, or what we would call bars, restaurants, people getting together even in their homes.
So people going out to eat, hanging out with friends, going to bars, restaurants, and in each other's homes, that is causing the leap in infections, not the millions of people out on the street protesting shoulder to shoulder. Those get-togethers are COVID-free. Coronavirus, the Wuhan coronavirus, knows not to attack them. But the people hanging out getting something to eat, they are target number one.
They've been frustrated being cooped in. So we know that that is the top source of people getting infections.
So you're really going to double down on that. You're going to double down on people having cabin fever, needing to get out of the house, going to restaurants, going to bars. That is the number one source of infections. Not protests, not riots, none of that. People wanting to go out and not be in their house. Not everyone's a hermit and just wants to stay home every goddamn day like you.
And in the beginning, certainly even at stay at home, that was not necessarily the source of infections. So it's several things kind of all happening at the same time.
It's everything. Everything is causing it except the one thing. The one thing that could possibly be causing it is just completely unmentioned at all as even a possibility to be playing some kind of role in this. Because MSNBC is fucking trash.
And now we're seeing big states like Florida and Texas rolling back some of that reopening, at least to try to tamp this down. Dr. Kavita Patel, always great to have your insights. Thank you so much.
If you really want to put a good, strong dent in this supposed spike cropping up really conveniently after the interest in the riots is dying down, stay distracted, kids. You're going to have to do something a little more than tamp down reopening. You're going to have to ban protests, ban riots, do all that. But you're not going to do that because it is the side of the political spectrum that you're on, so it's good. Fucking ridiculous. The media is the fucking enemy of the people. The thing is absolutely for certain, the shutdowns, the lockdowns have made people absolutely desperate for money, which made for some pretty good hoes going to facialabuse.com. That's facialabuse.com, or Ghetto Gaggers or Latina Abuse. Your choice. It is a wide array of different websites for your pleasure. And go follow my homeboy Duke over on Twitter at face_fucking for a pretty based feed of different things. Him and Anthony Cumia are my Anthony Cumia's boss, are my favorite follows on Twitter. So go check it out. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of the lovely patrons currently listed on screen right now. And if you want to become a patron and get access to Patreon-only movie nights, a Minecraft server, a Patreon-only Discord where we hang out, game, and so much more, please head down to the Patreon link down below. It is the main support I have since this channel got demonetized, and I appreciate it so much. You guys have no idea that you are single-handedly keeping this channel alive. Thank you, thank you, thank you.